Good evening, everyone. How are you doing tonight? Tonight, we're going to talk about personality. And my lighting is off. There we go. That's a little better. It won't be blinded now. I found it funny that I wanted to share. I found this in my notes from my psychology course. So I hope you enjoy this. How the brain works. Okay, I hope the sound is okay for everyone in the live. We have storms in the area. I want to mention that. So if we get cut off, we will continue next week. Just a show note there. Also, I want to mention that last week and this week, the things that I say are my own opinions, as if you didn't already know that. But some people on the internet, you got to tell them, this is my opinion. Although that doesn't matter in science, because everything is changeable in science. And everything is questionable. I mean, you can question everything. So, we try to keep that open so that people don't think that just because I say something or somebody else says something that has to be true and you cannot question it, because that would not be science. Everybody has to question certain things, and one of the things I question is personality testing. So we're going to get into that in a little bit. So, I want to say hello to everyone who's come in. I'm going to start off with definition, like we always do. Personality is a series or a list of traits that describe a person and describe their behavior and how they act towards others and how they act in the world. Okay? So those list of traits is called your personality. I'm going to talk about personality testing that I took, and I'm going to be drinking them. Maybe a lot, who knows. I hope everyone in the chat is safe with these storms. And thank you, Trey. Yes, people should question things. That's how we get new science. If we didn't question anything, we wouldn't learn new things. So that's where we're going with that. Okay, personality. I think one of the best ways to find out personality of a person is to spend some time with them and watch them in their everyday interactions. Or ask people that know them at work, at school, their friend group. What are some traits you would use to describe this person? I've been described as kind, okay, funny, creative, bossy. These are various things that have been told to me. Logical, generous, equanimous, which kind of even-keeled on my emotions, okay? A careful person, and that I've battled with perfectionism. In fact, the reason why I didn't start this show earlier in my life is because I wanted it to be perfect, and I wanted to do all these pre-recorded shows, and I finally said, no, Karl, you're battling with perfectionism again. Get over it. Do the show. It'll be okay. So, here we are. Now, some of the things that I say might make some people in the field slightly angry. That's going to happen. They're going to give me dirty looks. I might be shunned at my next convention if I go to. But, this is just the way I feel. Okay? Now, testing has come a long way. And there are various theories about personality. Okay. My problem with this whole thing is that what they will do in trying to test, remember we talked about validity and reliability. Is the test reliable? If you give it to the person one time and then another time, will it change drastically? And in personality testing, that could happen because I think that in different situations, we might show different aspects of our personality to different people, So depending on whether it's a friend or whether it's a psychologist or something like that, you might show different aspects of your personality. And so I'm not sure about the reliability of personality testing. They say they've worked that out and all. Okay. I question that most of the tests are going to come back with the same results every time. But who am I, right? I also think that we have a problem with validity. Now, how valid is the test? What they do is they will give this test to a bunch of people that they have said, okay, these people are depressed. So we give the test to them. And wherever they score in this particular area, we're going to call that depressed. And so that other people take the test in the future and they match the depressed group, they have a high depression score. Okay. I'm not sure that always works out in personality. Okay. Some things you can test and say, okay, yeah, that works the same as this or whatever. But I just kind of question how we get our norms from these groups. Some of these tests have been used mostly with people in a institutional setting. Okay. So how are they going to be normalized for normal, regular, everyday, average people that come into your office and say, I don't know if my personality is normal or not. Okay. So there's several different theories that they're, going around, and then the testing comes out of those theories. So one of the things is the 5-group theories, and it's basically, okay, we're going to look at neuroticism, and we're going to look at openness. We're going to look at the conscientiousness of the person. We're going to look at how extroverted or introverted they are, and agreeableness. Agreeableness? Okay. I'm wondering who they tested that on. All right. It's a good start. Then there are other tests and theories that go into the same kind of thing. One of the big ones that comes out a lot is the Myers-Briggs test. Myers-Briggs looks at these 4 things. They don't have neuroticism in there. Okay. I don't know what they were testing with neuroticism to begin with. How neurotic a person is. Neuroses, there are so many neuroses. How can you test for them? Okay. Really, I have my questions about this test. Another test, one that, that's not the one I wanted to go back to. Hang on. Okay. Another test that I took was the MMPI. Oh, my camera's acting up again. Okay. The MMPI is a test that they use in psychiatric situations. Now, on my MMPI, it said that I only showed one remarkable score. Everything else was, normal. But it said that I scored high in the masculinity-femininity scale. Wow. Okay. Although I don't think that I am one of these people that gets freaked out too much about people's sexuality or how they present their sexuality. But hey, the test said I do. So, whatever. I'm going to start drinking now. The other test I took, which looks at 16 different personality factors, is called the 16PF. And the 16PF looks at these 16 different personalities. Now, I'm going to go to a close-up of that. I think I've got a close-up of that. Yes. Okay. These are my test scores here. And how they've arranged this, and it's kind of hard to see, but they will have, thank you, Dan. Join me in this drink because you'll see at the top, it says cool and reserved on the left, and then warm and easygoing on the right. And then if you score way towards one, your little arrow breaks out. But if it's kind of in the average range, it'll be a mark there, but there's an arrow that points slightly to the cool reserved. Okay. I'm not sure where this fits in with what my friends have said, but okay, I'm kind of warm and easygoing and cool and reserved, depending on the situation. Okay. Concrete thinking versus abstract thinking. I was very high on abstract thinking, which, okay, yeah, that goes with the creativity, okay, that people have said. Okay, I can take that. So I'll let you look at these for a second while I try to fix my camera again. Okay, that's not working. All right. I still have not got this thing down pat here. Nope, it's frozen. Okay. We're just going to go on then. Well, you'll get to look at my lovely slides while I speak. Let me see if I've got a... Okay, we'll just leave it on there for a while. And I'll read to you some of the things that they say about me. Woo! Fun stuff. Okay? They said at the very top that there is a reason to suspect some distortion in these test results. And there's 2 scales that they look at. And they ask you different, somewhat innocuous questions to see if you're lying or not. One might be, I read the newspaper every day. Or I watch the news every day. And if you say yes to that, you're probably not telling the truth, But they ask you in several different ways, several different of these kinds of questions. And so they say, okay, you're trying to make yourself look better, on this test. But there's also a faking bad score that looks at, is this person trying to make themselves look worse in order to, get disability payments or get hospitalized for some reason? Okay, I guess. I'll read some more of this. This is fine because I'm looking down reading a piece of paper here anyway. So, my I'm not very assertive, it says here, which goes against what my friends say, because they say sometimes I get quite bossy. Okay. I'm more enthusiastic than sober and serious. Okay. Maybe that's where I get some of the humor. I don't know. But I was very high on expediency versus conscientiousness. So I might rush in where angels fear to tread. Okay. It also says that I'm venturesome instead of shy and timid. Okay, I don't think I'm timid, but I am rather shy and introverted. So this thing saying that I'm very high in venturesomeness doesn't quite match. It says that I'm sensitive. Okay, nice. Thanks. Trusting and suspiciousness, I'm right in the middle, which I think I am much more suspicious than trusting. I am so skeptical. I'm usually a cynic. So I don't know that really caught. Maybe that's where I was being careful and trying to present myself a little better, so I didn't end up being on the paranoid scale. I'm high on imagination. Okay, yeah. Shrewd and forthright. Okay, I'm in the middle. Self-assured. I'm much more self-assured than I am self-doubting. Okay, I can take that. Conservative versus experimenting. I'm on the experimental side. Yeah, let's go try that. It might work. Group-oriented versus self-sufficient. I am the self-sufficient, as you can see. Between disciplined and undisciplined, I'm kind of right in the middle. And did I cut it off? No. Relaxed versus tense. Yeah. I'm very relaxed. So unless somebody tests me and it comes out wrong. Okay. Now, my problem with this is not that I got tested, because this was part of my master's program. And it wouldn't be that, I didn't always agree with all the scores. That's not part of my problem. The next problem is we look at occupational fitness projections. Okay? And if I was wanting to become a particular job, go into a particular job, I could get denied because I don't have the I don't have the personality for it, which could be good. Okay, if you said, okay, we've given this test to a lot of counselors and psychologists and vocational counselors, and you scored good with them, okay, cool. But if they said, you didn't score highly with them, I might be upset about that. But, okay, I could be an artist. I was extremely high a musician, extremely high as a writer. Oh, amazing. I was only very high as an employment counselor. I would be an average firefighter. For some reason, I'd be good as a doctor. I'd be able to handle that. I would not be able to be a police officer, according to this test, which... yeah, I'd be a little bored by that. I was very high for a priest. Okay. Low as a service station dealer, which, yeah, I have no interest in that, so that's cool. About average for a social worker. That's interesting. I was extremely high as a physicist. Okay, sure. Why not? I would not be good as an accountant or an airline pilot. I was below average for airline pilot. Yeah. So yeah. I was average as a kitchen worker, very low as a machine operator. I guess my imagination would get the best of me. I start daydreaming and get killed in the machine. So I probably shouldn't go into sales or banking or being a plant foreman or being a store manager. Okay. I, though, was kind of high elementary school teacher, above average for junior high, extremely high for a senior high school teacher or a university professor. Ha ha, very good. So those are my scores that they came up with. One of the recommendations they had was that I should have, I have a problem with strict regard for the rules and respect for fine moral obligations. And so they suggested a close relationship with a supervisor. And I'm like, okay. I don't know exactly where they get that, but I do kind of listen to my own drummer, so I guess that. Okay. What really bothered me was they said Karl may also approach problems more from an emotional rather than a rational standpoint. And I don't think that's true. Okay. It also said that sometimes I might go off and go do my own thing and not be very responsible to others, which goes against everything I've been told before by other people, but okay. So that was my experience with the 16PF. I like that one better than some of the others. And I'm going to get into some of the others now. I've got some more slides for you. These are fun. This is to do with a test that they give. And they will then give you these 4 letters that supposedly measure certain things in your personality. And then they give you these names to these things. And I believe this is from the Myers-Briggs. And I don't particularly care for these, but people will get these letters and then they go, okay, I guess I'm this way. And sometimes some people will actually start trying to, after the testing, they'll start to try to act like what they think their personality type is, which, I don't know. Yes, Trey, it was a very interesting mix of jobs. There were some others in there that I didn't read because they, like credit union manager and those kind of things. Yeah. And so anyway, from these, they will give you like, okay, if you're an INTJ person, you are the architect. And your strengths are you're rational, informed, independent, determined, and curious. And I think I came fairly close to these. The name of it, the architect, is kind of misleading, I think. But anyway, that's what they had. So you got to wonder, if people will start getting excited about these and go off, thinking that is them. These, there's my frozen camera again. These are not the be all and end all. And I think it's much better if you, like I say, you go around and you ask some friends, okay? I found another place that did my personality, and it said that I have mysterious allure, deep emotions, I'm loyal, determined, and intuitive. And those seem to hit fairly well. And oh, wait a minute. I'm talking about Scorpio. This is frickin' astrology. What the hell? Sometimes I think personality tests are not too much better than looking up your star chart for what good they do. And if they're excluding you from jobs, that's not a good thing either. So my whole thing is not that there is a personality test. I'm glad they're trying it. Good job on them. I wouldn't want to be one of these experimenters that tries these tests, but I have to question what it's based on, first of all, what the norms are, where did they get these scores that they're comparing you to, and what do they use it for? Okay? So I'm not sure that personality testing is often going to help the average person on the street. It might help you determine, you might like this job, and you might say, well, what's that job about? I've never heard of that job before. I might give that a try. That's a good thing. Okay? It might give you some exploration. If you just don't know what you want to do, that might help you a little bit. But if it's used to exclude you from things, I don't particularly care for that. That's just Karl, okay? And it didn't exclude me from what I wanted to do, which was fine. Good, great. But it could be used to exclude certain people. No, astrology is not for the win. I'm just saying that I don't think this testing is much better than astrology. I think they need to do some more work. And they are. They're trying to improve it all the time. But like I say, there's no substitute for going out and doing interviews about the person with people they work with or they live with and finding out how those folks describe them and writing your information from there. And maybe use the norms to, look at, okay, maybe you might like these jobs because these jobs use this particular skill you seem to have or this particular personality trait that you have. That's cool. But I think mostly these, like the MMPI, the big long test I was talking about, there's like 500 some questions on that thing. And it's used mostly in institutional settings. It's the Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Inventory is what the letters stand for, because it was done by the University of Minnesota. So that test is really good for if you're questioning a diagnosis of a person who's come into an institution and you want to see, are they a paranoid schizophrenic? Do they just have paranoia? Do they have a paranoid personality disorder? And we're going to get into those in the future. Yeah, they're all three different things. And you might use a personality test to discover where that diagnosis fits. But right now, that's about the most useful these tests can be. Yeah, Dawn, you may have been a test subject. They went out to college students, of course. They always use college students, poor college students. They go out to the hospitals. They sometimes will pay people from the community to come in and take a test. And, of course, they had to test people in various skill sets and jobs to see where they fit in to try to match you to the jobs. So, yeah, you might have been a test subject, you never know. If you ever took a test with 500 multiple choice questions where you had to fill in the little circle, you may have been a test subject. It takes a long time to take that test. And when it comes back, I didn't do a screenshot of that, but when it comes back, it's a bunch of numbers all over the page. And they pretty much have to run it through a computer to be able to interpret the test. Which, okay, this was before AI. I cannot imagine what it would look like now if you ran the MMPI results through AI. it would probably mark us all as nutso. Okay, yeah, thesis agrees. He's never taken a test he agreed with. Okay, yeah, exactly. There was one test we informally took at work as part of a what do I want to say? Now my brain is doing that thing. I guess it was part of an in-service, and we took this test, and it came out with colors. It gave people a color rating. And I was like, okay. And people were supposed to cut out a piece of the color and stick it by their office so that other people that came to them would go, oh, he's a blue, so I've got to be really appeal to his emotions or whatever. And she's a red, so I've got to be careful not to, question her abilities, okay, whatever. And so, yeah, there was this big thing about the colors. And so, of course, being me, I found a piece of clear plastic, cut it out, and taped it. and they were like, what was your real color? I said, that's my real color. I'm transparent. What you see is what you get, baby. Just come to my office. Tell me what you need to tell me. Don't worry about, hurting my feelings because I'm a red or I'm a blue or whatever the hell, So, yeah. There are some personality tests that I haven't taken them all. There's one that is like, choose the cartoon character that best fits you. Are you Fred Flintstone or Scooby-Doo? They can get very silly sometimes. Dawn was in grade school, but took some tests. It took a couple days, and one of the teachers had to read out each question to me. Well, there you go. You could have been a test subject for University of Minnesota. Mm-hmm. I got a drink to that. Yeah, they don't remember you doing it. They probably had to sign a permission slip, but that's probably about all they would have known about it. They probably didn't tell you much about it, and they didn't tell them much about it, because some people, if they said, well, we're going to test her personality to see what kind of person she is or something, they might have been like, no, don't think so. Although some parents would say, yes, test my kid all you like. Please do. Okay, Dan had to take the Scholastic Aptitude Test. Yes. The aptitude test is more of a IQ type of test. They do try to see what kind of abilities you have, but they're not really looking at your personality in that. They don't really care about your personality. They just care about your skill set in that particular one. And you're right. Since it's run by the military, you've got to wonder, are they testing me to find out how good I'd be in the war or something? Yeah. You got to score really low on hand-eye coordination. Yeah, I couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. Sorry. Yeah. Okay, and that's a funny thing to remember, Dawn, that that your teacher smelled like alcohol and day-old aftershave. Well, yeah. I have nothing to say about that, I guess. Anyway, since the camera's not working, I'm freaked out now. My perfectionism is kicking in here. Does anybody have any questions or anything they wanted to ask about personality? Because I'm open to it. None? Not so far? Did you agree with my personality results from either what my friends said or what the test said? Which did you think was probably closer to? Because you folks, a lot of you in the chat, know my personality pretty well. Those who watch this later might, not know me that well. So they may, they may not be able to judge. Okay. No question about that. All right. Cool. All right, then. Well, that was all I had for tonight, folks. Which is good because I think our storm is gathering up for another volley at us here. Next week, things will be fun. Okay, thank you, Foxy. Yeah, if you check back later, and I always will answer questions about past topics here, okay? If you have a question about, like IQ or a question about memory, we can go back and we can talk about those things again. I don't mind going backwards. It's just when people give me questions about stuff we're going to talk about that it's like, well, can you save that for a week? And wait a minute. I was going to go to Meijer. I was going to buy some creamer, right? I was going to buy some Coca-Cola and milk and granola bars and Tostitos and orange juice. Oh, I remembered all those things. Cool. Oh, okay. Dawn took the 16 PF online. Yeah. The online version's probably a cut down version of it. Yes, Foxy. Don't take them seriously. They can be funny. They can be fun. They can, give you some insights, and other things will leave you questioning, like, how did they get that? That's how I felt on some of mine. Some of them are right on the money, so that was pretty good. But others of them, I said, I don't know where you're getting that. Okay. Yeah, Dawn, if you had some physical ailments, it can affect your personality. And that's not what I was saying about reliability, is, it's hard to say that this is going to be reliable throughout the lifetime of a person because people do change. Their personalities change. As you age, your perceptions and your perspective is going to change. So, yeah, if I took this test today, I'd probably go, oh my gosh, this guy's full of snark. Oh, good, Foxy. You're remembering your the wonders of the world, right? Very good. Yes, Don, your perspective can change from day to day and from person to person. How you express your personality with your friends is going to be different than how you express your personality at work. Okay, it could be the same personality, but you are going to express it differently. So whereas at work you might go, well, okay, I'm going to do this because everybody else is going to do it. I don't like it. At home you might say, no way, Jose, we're not going to do that. Okay? So you might be more effective in pushing that away at home. Whereas at work, you might be like, I've got to get along with others too. So one part of your personality, that part that says, well, we got to work as a team, overcomes the part that says, this is stupid, we shouldn't do this. So, yeah, that's why I said, you really need to interview people that know you from various points of view. Yes, Dawn. Yeah. One of the things I didn't mention, because you said something about, okay, you were sitting on the couch pouting because you couldn't make it to a convention. Yeah, your answers might have been skewed a little bit. Mine were skewed on this one because I had been sick for a couple weeks before taking this test, and it was the first day I really felt good. And so I kind of blamed some of my scores on that, and I mentioned it in the testing results, but I didn't read it out to you guys. Yes, exactly, Dan. Yeah, the people you hang out with in different circumstances will show. Then that's what I've been saying this whole hour is. I think that's the best way to rate a personality. Okay, folks. Next week, fun time. We're going to start talking about abnormal psychology. And, so far we've been just talking about, hey, this is going along and we're going fine. But what happens when things go wrong? What happens when a person is wired wrong? This guy that's plugging in the extension cords blows a fuse. What happens then? And that's what we'll be talking about next week. And that's where the fun begins. So I want to thank you all for coming out tonight. Appreciate it. Thanks for braving the storms and getting through. No problem. Dawn, you can be chatty. That's great. All right. Hey, everybody, have a good week, and we'll see some of you soon.